Hey, welcome to the sound of the start of something. It's the NTT20 betting show. It's sponsored by Sky Bet. And it's me, Ali Maxwell, him, George Elek, making betting picks ahead of a full slate of EFL action. And betting comes with risks. So please be aware of them. Head to gambleaware.org to brush up on them. This show very strictly for over 18s only. George, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to you. Welcome to everyone.
Welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That you don't know how much that means to me.
Whoever welcomes the host. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. That's what everyone says. Last week, not great. No winners for you, in fact. Some quite painful losers vis-a-vis Watford fans. No, Millwall fans on social media after your
nuts.
Watford nap. Danny Baker said, what did he say? Put my nuts in...
No, eat it raw, fuzz nuts. What's it?
Old dudes are so weird.
So weird.
Peterborough next best. Nope. Argyle and Millwall, I would suggest, putting in their best performances of the season in response and riposte to you picking against them. Your Acca was Crew. They won 3-1. And Exeter Stevenage, no goal scorer, ended 3-0 to Exeter. Me. Nap, Blackpool, loser. Eggman, 3 out of 5. Goal scorer, thankfully we had one bit of green on our spreadsheet, which is mostly a sea of red last week. And it was Gideon Kodua, scored at 4-1 for Luton. We had half a point on, so that was a 2-point winner, but I was still minus 1.5 points down for the week. BTTS, we got 4 out of 6. We both got 2 out of 3. So far, so standard. But also... a throwback from 2 weeks ago, the FA Cup third round pod. George, when is a 26-1 winner not a 26-1 winner?
When it's been voided.
Tuesday night,
or
the
one half at least.
Rearranged Salford-Swindon game, which formed the second leg of our over 4.5 and over 5.5 goals doubles. Salford 3, Swindon 2. Would have been a winner at 27.5. But wasn't. Yeah, it's a funny old game. George, you said to me yesterday, after your first glance at this docket, that you thought it was a tough slate.
That was this morning.
When I looked, all I can see is bets. So there you go. League 2 is rank. I'll give you that.
Oh, I'm in League 2.
Oh. Normally my favourite hunting ground. So this, I actually think we're dovetailing quite well here. What's your nap?
Bromley to beat Swindon at 21-20 is my best bet of the weekend. I thought after last week, upsetting a fan base, I thought I'd go after Swindon this time. But I mean, if it has if it has the same effect, they'll be very happy with me. It's been a trend, a theme of mine all season is to talk about Swindon, and they're quite a strange team in terms of the dispersal of their points this season. And this is something I picked up on quite early, and it's kind of continued as the season's gone on, where they are very, very good against the poorest teams in the league and basically beat them every time they play them home or away. But against the better teams in the league, they struggle, and particularly away from home, where they have played 3 of the current top 7, not including them away from home, and they've lost all 3. Their record against better teams, they beat Bromley back in September when Bromley weren't necessarily a top-end team. But apart from that, they've drawn in home games against Notts County, against Colchester, against Grimsby. The one team that I would say in the kind of most false position in the League 2 are Barnet, who may be in 13th, but in my mind should be at least in the top 7. And they lost to them at home. So for whatever reason, it feels like Ian Holloway's Swindon just struggle against teams of high quality. And that was also seen twice in the last week, where they were beaten by Salford when they played them at home last Saturday, and then they played Salford in the Cup, and they were beaten by them in midweek as well. So you can add those two to kind of defeats against good teams, I guess. And they also have to deal with the disappointment of losing that game in frustrating circumstances, where they were 2-0 down, they got it back to 2-2, they went 3-2 down, they then thought they'd scored with 5 minutes to go. But the goal was chalked off, and they missed out on a huge payday away at Manchester City in the next round. So that's all kind of pointing me in the direction of when they play away from home against good teams, especially here after what has been a pretty grueling week and a week where Holloway's going to have to get them kind of back up for it again. A trip to Bromley may not be ideal. Bromley have not lost at home this season. They haven't not won a game at home this season, sorry for the double negative, since October the 4th. They won every single game at home since then. They are, as we keep saying, a repeatable machine who are efficient from set pieces, who are pretty solid defensively, who basically score in all their games. They haven't scored 1 goal in a home game this season in the league. They haven't also scored 0 goals in a home game in the league this season. So they've scored either 2 or more goals in every single home game this season.
They've scored 2 or more goals in every home game this season. That's incredible.
But also probably unsustainable. And maybe this will be the weekend where it doesn't continue. But, it all adds to my theory that they're a team that are just very good. They're the runaway leaders at the top of League Two. And I don't think there'll be very many opportunities for them to back them at a backable price. And the reason we can here is because it's first v second. But I do think there are reasons why, even if Swindon have the staying power to be a top 3 team, and they may well do because they are incredibly good against poorer teams in the league, I think there is an angle here to get with Bromley. So Bromley at 21-20 is my best bet of the weekend.
Mine app, Wrexham, 21-10 at Queen's Park Rangers. When it comes to Wrexham, who I'm backing, I've been pretty encouraged by their performances in the last 2 games, neither of which they've won. They were at home to Norwich, and then they were at home to Leicester. And I think on the balance of play and overall, they, at the very worst, held their own against those 2 teams. They lost to Norwich, a really nice breakaway transition goal, which won Norwich that game through hot striker Jovan Makama. Against Leicester, there is no doubt in my mind that Wrexham were the better side and should have won that game. They conceded to a 90th minute set-piece goal by Vestergaard. They have dropped a lot of points from winning positions this season. I've done a video for Dragon Sports this week trying to analyse it and trying to work out what the issues are. And maybe this is my own fault as an analyst, but I've kind of come up empty-handed. If you look at the individual instances of Wrexham giving up goals, to conceding goals and losing leads and dropping points, there isn't really one obvious thing. I definitely don't think this is an issue of mentality when it comes to Wrexham. I don't really see how you can question this team's mentality, either in isolation this season, some of the late comebacks they've had, some of the cup games that they've had, but equally over the last 3-4 seasons, this is a team who surely have scored the most late goals of any team in English football. Against Leicester, it's a set-piece goal. Is that an issue for them? Not really. They've conceded very few of those this season. In quite a lot of the previous games where they've dropped points, it's been some deflected goals from range, the likes of Vipotnik for Swansea. There's one other that I'm forgetting. Okonkwo had a shocker in that Swansea game. I just don't see it being this massive issue, and I think part of the reason they've dropped points in winning positions is because apart from Coventry, no one has scored first more in championship games this season. So I would rather look at it as they are doing a lot of things right to get ahead more than any other team other than the league leaders. This is also a big squad thing. Players that were unused midweek sitting on Wrexham's bench. Sam Smith, Nathan Broadhead, Josh Windass, George Dobson. They can all come into this starting 11 fresh as daisies, a quartet of daisies. And I think Parky's quite strategic with the sort of triple game weeks or the 3 games in a weeks. And I think this is where he's going to benefit from this. And it's specifically when it comes to QPR, they are in the opposite situation. They already have a fairly small, thin squad. They already have pretty big drop-off between their sort of starters, first-team players, and their reserve players, their sub-players. And so injuries bite, and they are currently biting. Beat Burrell, big one up top. Kone is ploughing a lone furrow, but he doesn't have his mate with him, who was kind of scoring the goals to make the most of his hard work. They've got a big issue at left back, where Escudinha played, who's not great, and he got injured in midweek, so Sam Field might play there. He's not been great at left back. Midfield, they're okay, but still a bit light. And in attacking areas, they're missing quite a few players. So I kind of respect that QPR have ground out 2 0-0 draws against Oxford and Stoke in the last week, rather than just folding in the face of adversity. I do think their floor is decent, but I think this is maybe one game too many for a bashed up QPR side. And at the price, over 2-1, I really like a Wrexham team that I think are a very, very good championship team right now to go to QPR fresh as daisies and win. 21-10, Wrexham, my best bet of the weekend.
My next best is Wrexham draw no bet.
Hey, nice.
I was there at the Oxford QPR game on Tuesday, and they weren't great. As you say, the injury to Burrell seems to really have impacted what they can do from an attacking perspective. Paul Smith had a very good time on the left-hand side in the first half, where Oxford defended quite narrow, and he kind of stayed wide, and they continued to hit him with diagonals, and he had the better of Sam Long. But once that was remedied in the second half with Brody Spencer going out there, who kind of stayed a bit closer to him. His threat was kind of nullified. What they were very good at is as soon as Oxford got on the ball, QPR's shape was very, very compact, and it was basically impossible for Oxford to play through them. So they had to kind of go over them. And I think Wrexham will be pretty happy with that.
That suits Wrexham.
Wrexham have no interest really in playing between the lines. They'll look to go from back to front very, very quickly.
Crosses into Big Kiefer with Windass and Broadhead ready for the scraps.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So you hate Sam Smith. So it's I think it's a stylistic matchup. I think for draw no bets, games where you don't expect there to be many goals, it's always quite appealing because 0-0 and 1 will become big runners. And, that means we get our money back. Wrexham's away games are generally pretty low scoring. QPR at the moment, the last 2 games have been absolute snooze fests. And I don't see why, unless, the personnel are unlikely to change dramatically. A bit crew, their new signing wasn't even on the bench on Tuesday, so I can't imagine he's going to come in. I totally agree. I think Wrexham will come into this. It's a good stylistic match for them. It's a game where I don't expect many goals, and therefore getting kind of a decent slice of odds against with a draw no bet about Wrexham is the way I'm playing it.
Goalscorer corner. 1 point play. Ashley Fletcher 2-1. Bit skinnier than I'd like to be backing goal scorers. Still think there's a case that this Sky Bet price is good value. There are firms as short as 11-8 for Ashley Fletcher to score any time. For Blackpool at home to Northampton, I think the 2-1 represents decent value for someone who's just so hot right now. Anytime has landed in 9 of his last 14 League One games. It was about this time last year that he really caught fire in League One, and basically for 12 months he's been exceptional. His finishing has been incredible very often, making half chances look very, very easy. I can think of a few finishes with the outside of his right foot, cutbacks, inside the box, one-on-ones. He looks really, really good right now. Northampton giving up 1.63 XG against per game over the last 10 games per Not the Top Tables, which is our data offering. Sortable XG tables over 5-10 game periods and also season long. You can compare all 3 sort of date ranges as well. We've updated them over the last few weeks so that they're an even better product than they were initially. And I think particularly this week, after the sad demise of FB Ref's advanced metrics for the championship, there are certainly lots of people who are looking for good data products. And we think we've got one, Not the Top Tables, which gets updated every Tuesday, and that's what tells me Northampton's defence over a 10-game period has certainly dropped off after a very obdurate start to the season. I think Fletcher at 2-1. I'd be astounded if he doesn't get some good chances. Blackpool good going forward, poor at the back. Northampton not great at the back, pretty poor going forward. Let's back him a point at 2-1. I'm also going to ride the Vipers hot streak. That's Zan Vipotnik, the championship top scorer, to score for Swansea at Hull at 5-2. It's another 1 point play. Hull give up shots. That's no surprise. That's been the case all season. It doesn't seem to affect them in terms of results. They might be the first ever football team to consistently concede 5 shots on target or more in games and just win anyway and probably go all the way to the playoffs with that. But they are facing those shots. They are real. And someone's got to take them, right? In 9 of the last 12 league games, they have faced 5 or more shots on target. If the Viper is taking those shots, which when you look at Swansea and you look at how few other goal threats that they have and how basically everything revolves around getting the ball to Vipotnik, there's, in my head, we're looking at probably 2 shots on target for Vipotnik. And if you were to watch Vipotnik's 20 shots on target so far this season, 66% of which have gone in, you would see, someone who's on an absolute heater and an unbelievable hot streak. That probably won't continue at this rate quite to this extent, but who we have seen enough of in the last 18 months to know that as a ball striker, as someone to not just hit the target, but to place his shots with such power from pretty much anywhere 25 yards and in, he's sensational. He's not a great all-round striker, to be quite honest with you. I think there are parts of his game which probably hurt Swansea in terms of being an all-round team. But when it comes to shooting and finishing, at the moment, best in the league, top scorer in the league, 5-2 to score against a team that give up a lot of shots. I think that's worthwhile this weekend. And then to finish, half a point on Bobby Camwer, plays for Newport County. They're at home to Chesterfield. They're a long old price to beat Chesterfield. But only the bottom 5 in League 2, and we know that the bottom 5 in League 2 are horrendous, only that group of teams have conceded more on the road than Chesterfield this season. They are very open, concede a lot of goals. And Newport, some good signs over the last few weeks. You're a bit more convinced than I am, I think, about Newport overall, but in 2 of the last 3 games, Camworth has had 5 shots. He is the opposite of Jan Vipotnik, to be fair. He's not a great shooter. 35 shots in the league this season, 3 XG without scoring. But every dog has its day. And I think Camworth, with space to play into, as Chesterfield generally commit a lot of men forward and have space at the back, I think there's a good chance for Camworth to get some good opportunities. 5-1 anytime seems fair to me. And that means Goalscorer corner this week has Ashley Fletcher, 2-1, and Zan Vipotnik, 5-2, both 1 point plays. Bobby Camworth, half a point, 5-1.
When Ashley Fletcher gets the Goalscorer corner, he's going to look around and be like, I'm not the only Fletcher in here? That's weird.
Right.
Because he's going to find Isaac Fletcher in there as well.
Oh, Barrow's Isaac Fletcher.
So he's an interesting one,
Yeah.
Isaac Fletcher. Was signed by Barrow last season after a very good run at Spennymoor Town. Is it Town? Have I just added a town to Spennymoor?
Definitely a town, yeah.
Sorry, Spennymoor Town, yeah. Having been released by Middlesbrough. Now, he is quite an interesting profile, a 6'4" attacking midfielder who'd scored quite a lot of goals for Spennymoor Town. And he started this season in and out of the side under Andy Wing, playing as a 10. Scored some goals. Last time Barrow played Crawley back in the end of September, he had 6 shots playing as a 10 and got a goal and an assist.
Mm-hmm.
Came out of the side, and when Wing was sacked, he was brought back into the fold, and he has scored 3 goals in his last 3 games. He played as a 10 against Tranmere. He had 2 shots, scored 1 of them. He then moved up front against Salford and had a shot, and he scored it. And last time out against Crewe in a 3-1 defeat, the first game under their new boss, Paul Gallagher, he had 7 shots for his 1 goal. So he's kind of quickly progressing into a proper goalsman and striker, even though his goal scoring record previously has been quite good anyway. He is 11-4 to score any time. I'm just trying to see what the XG totaled for his shots. But
bloody hell, 1.52 shots on target per game for this Fletcher.
1.79 expected goals in his last game against Crewe. And he played 90 minutes, which is crucial. So
second in League 2 for shots on target per 90. I can't speak today.
Given that we know Crawley's defensive frailties are very obvious.
Good God, they are the most obvious defensive frailties I think I've ever seen.
And Barrow's games of football at the moment are bonkers and like really end to end ever since Wingy left the club. And that was the same in the 3-1 defeat against Crewe, where there were 4 goals in the first 38 minutes and then none after that, even though there were still plenty more chances. You've got to think this is a game which could have goals in it. So getting 11-4 about this guy who seems to be the main goal threat, and there is the super sub. Obviously this isn't the reason why I'm having it, but if you were to back this, Barrow have just signed a striker or even bought a striker in Danny Rose. My assumption is that with Fletcher having scored three goals in 3 games and playing 90 last time out, I'd be amazed if he just got taken out for Rose. There's probably a fair chance that Rose comes on for him at some point in the second half, so you'd obviously get that too. But that's kind of just an aside for you Sky Bet betters. But the main reason for doing this is that I think Isaac Fletcher is overrated for Barrow, so he's my goal scorer selection. What
I personally really like about that pick is that last week I realised that Fred Onyedinma had been moved up front for Wycombe, and I looked at him on the goal scorer corner long list, and I can't really remember why I didn't back him, and then he scored.
Probably.
And then I was like, that just seemed like one for the betting show where you go, this guy's playing up front, and he's very rarely done that before, so they might not necessarily be factoring that in. And you've done it this week, and that's what you should do. Thank you. Really nice. Isaac Fletcher and Ashley Fletcher, wouldn't that be nice? Could you give me something to swerve in my Acca?
Yeah, Grimsby.
Thank God.
Why?
Genuinely didn't know what you're going to say, and it's a big moment every week, because at some point you might say
about to an Acca.
You might say one that then ends up in the Eggman.
Grimsby are odds on at Cheltenham. They're 19-20, and I'm no huge Cheltenham believer. I think their incredible run under Steve Cotterill has done what it needed to do. I think they'll probably fizzle into mid-table obscurity from now until the end of the season, because it's hard to maintain that kind of intensity. And I did see a few people wondering and speculating, could they mount a playoff challenge? I think last weekend's result, will... The underlying numbers haven't changed that much. They're still projecting as one of the worst teams in the league, and I think that's kind of what we'll see from now until the end of the season. However, we've spoken before about away teams being odds on in League 2. It's an incredibly unpredictable league. It is the kind of the grouping of quality means that it's hard to really make a case here, and especially when Grimsby aren't necessarily one of the best teams in the league, and Cheltenham aren't necessarily one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, it depends how you're looking at that, but like in terms of the league table, they certainly aren't, and in terms of Cheltenham aren't a Harrogate.
The way you like to look at it is just looking at the league table,
that's
and just going off that.
But like at times Grimsby have been, at times Cheltenham have been, but right now it's hard to make a case for that being true. Grimsby have won 3 games in a row. However, those 3 games in a row could easily have been very, very different, because you have 2 last-minute winners and then an early red card in their last game, and they win all 3 of them 1-0. So, it's not necessarily quite like it was early on in the season under Dave Artell. Cheltenham will, provide a test for Grimsby. So I would be swerving Grimsby at a shade of odds on here if I were to have an Acca on Saturday.
So my Acca this week, 5-fold, the Eggman, 134-1. It's just one of those weekends for me where quite a lot just suits my eye, just sort of lines up nicely. And I think sometimes with the Acca, just don't overthink it. Just hit through the ball, keep your head down, see where it ends up. It's good that applies to cricket and golf.
Yeah.
And I guess baseball, but I've never played. 5 selections starting in the Championship with Birmingham City 5-6 at home to Stoke City. We'll start with Stoke. Absences, restrictive absences. In almost every area of the pitch, Stoke have absences. And apart from out wide, but poor old Sorba Thomas and Million Manhoof are getting absolutely hammered physically. My main memory of Wednesday night, second half against Middlesbrough, Stoke trying to get back in the game was just poor Sorba, just sprinting around as he seems to have done in every minute of every game since the start of the season, covering mad distances, swinging cross after cross after cross. I just feel a bit bad for him at the moment. But Lawal got sent off. He's been playing left back, so I guess Cresswell or Bocat will come in. It's not a disaster on that front. They've been playing Maxi Talavierov at right back. I think he's done fine on a defensive level. You're obviously going to have restrictions on your build-up and how good you can be attacking in wide areas if your fullbacks just can't really affect the game in the middle and final thirds. Midfield, it's okay. It's not great at the moment. Baker's out. And at the top of the pitch and in goal, it's just an absolute bloodbath. Basically, every single striker is injured, and both Johansson and Bazunu are injured. They may well get someone else in. Might end up with 5 goalkeepers on their books because they possibly will stop trusting Simkin at some point, and it doesn't look like Frankie Fielding is there for much other than sort of high fives and putting the cones out and warming up the other keepers. So, yeah, I think they're up against it. Whereas Birmingham, for all the good and bad this season, they have been good at home. 5th best home record, 2 points per game, 7 wins out of 13, only 1 defeat. They've got some new additions of their own to add some freshness, give Davies more options, including a striker in Priska, a midfielder in Solis, and someone else that I'm forgetting, on top of Wagner, who has come in at left back and looked really, really good. So they're in good shape, I think. Stoke are bare bones. I've got Birmingham in there. Talking of bare bones, also in the Championship, I am backing Watford, I'm afraid, at 2.6, which I make 8-5. Talking of bare bones, Blackburn, their opponent at home to Watford this weekend. In midweek, they played back 3 of Atchison, O'Riordan and McLaughlin. Baraji and Tronstad in midfield with a youngster Doherty, a youngster Powell at left wing back, Gardner Hickman at right wing back, new signing Jorgensen up top who scored with Ohashi, who's just been absolutely run into the ground, poor lad, on account of being basically the only player that's been fit for the whole season. Cashin was unused off the bench, so I guess he may come back in here, which will strengthen their back line, but this is a Rovers side. Got alarm bells ringing. Horrendous home record this season. 2 wins, 4 draws, 7 defeats at Ewood Park. It's just an absolute horror show. So while Watford, not great in terms of the season long away from home, recently winning at Norwich, winning at Leicester, maybe the way they're setting up under Gracia suits them playing away from home. Doesn't look like it suits them playing at home where they've been poor in the last couple of games. So I've got Watford at 8-5. I've got Plymouth Argyle in League One. Possibly just blinded by last week's performance at Peterborough, which is one of the best performances that we've seen from a team in League One this season. But also I believe in the general improvement over the last month or two, and I don't think that should be underestimated. But this is also a Luton wrinkle, who are their visitors. Luton's numbers are fine. Luton's form is fine, if not spectacular. But they've played at home in 7 of their last 10 league games and 9 of their last 13 in all competitions. And I think your form line and your numbers are going to look quite a lot better if you play 2/3 of your games at home in a pretty long period of time. Away from home, last seen losing at Exeter, before that losing at Reading, before that drawing at Orient in the last minute, drawing at Fleetwood in the Cup before losing on pens, and losing 5-0 to Barnsley. That's their last 5 away games. So until Wilshire's Luton show that they can play well away from home, there's still so much to be unconvinced by. I think 17-10 for Argyle to keep rolling is a good price. I don't think there are many Stevenage opponents that should be 12-5 at the moment, but that's what Mansfield are, who've won 5 games in a row in all competitions. Yes, Stevenage have only lost 1 out of 11 at home this season, but last 3 at home, draws against Bolton, Argyle, Burton. They lost to Cardiff the home game before that. Before that, they drew with Doncaster, they drew with Bradford. So 5 draws and 1 defeat in their last 6 at home. The performances are terrible. They look really out of ideas going forward and defensively not as strong as they started the season. Mansfield have some special sauce at the moment for sure. A lot of it's down to Rhys Oates, I believe, whose performance level is just sensational as an attacking player, but they've got Will Evans and they've got the new lad Iro, who scored a brace on debut as well. Clough's Mansfield on a hot streak. You know it's going to end. You can't really believe in it, but it can continue as well. 12-5, plenty good enough for me. So that's a 5-fold. It's got Birmingham, it's got Watford, it's got Wrexham, my nap. I should have mentioned that. It's got Argyle and it's got Mansfield. The 5-fold pays out 134-1 with Sky Bet. A BTTS 6-fold to finish.
Yeah, I've got 3 sections in that.
I thought you would.
Sheffield United, Ipswich. 2 teams, well, 1 team banging form in Ipswich, 1 team who weren't banging form but are faltering a little bit in Sheffield United. I know the Blades obviously went to Saints on Wednesday night and it was a 1-0 game that they lost, but I still think this is one where surely we'll see both teams trade some pretty big attacking blows, you would think. Both the way that they'll approach the games. We've seen Sheffield United games go pretty mad in terms of goals recently. I think the recent trend of that going downwards is just a little blip and they'll get back to it fairly soon. The way that Sheffield United will look to play this and play on the front foot should massively suit Ipswich, I think, in terms of their attacking play. But we know that Ipswich aren't the most solid, especially away from home this season. So I can see there being goals there. Newport, Chesterfield, another one. Since Fuchs has come into Newport, their games have been very end-to-end, very high scoring. Last seen losing 3-2 against Gillingham. Chesterfield under Paul Cook are generally a team that you can follow for goals, and certainly from their attacking play is still relatively good, but they concede a lot of goals and a lot of shots. The same can be said about Salford, who are going very well in League Two. The way their games tend to go out are high-scoring affairs and they're pretty end-to-end. Bristol Rovers have obviously improved their output since Steve Evans came in. Caverna's in very good form. I don't think they'll be able to shut Salford out, but I think they'll cause them some issues. So my 3 are Sheffield United, Ipswich, Newport, Chesterfield, and Salford, Bristol Rovers. Yeah,
I've got Hull, Swansea in the Championship for fairly self-explanatory reasons. Hull, a magnificent attacking machine, and the Viper up front for Swansea, I believe, is a good bet to score at 5-2. I like the BTTS price here. I'm adding Bolton and Leyton Orient in League One. Now, Bolton don't concede many goals at home, only 7 in their 13 home games so far. So it's a bit of a leap of faith, and it's a leap of faith in a Leyton Orient side that do score quite a lot of goals, 1.5 per game across the whole season, 1.33 per game away from home. Dom Ballard, in fine form.
Dan Ballard, get him in the England squad.
Mickey, stop it. There's going to be some confused listeners there who weren't keeping up to date with Mickey Gray's commentary of Sunderland against whoever it was a few months ago. And Barrow Crawley.
Topical, aren't we?
And Barrow Crawley to finish us off. Again, one that lines up nicely with some of our picks, namely Isaac Fletcher to score for Barrow has been a threat recently. Crawley, disastrous defensively, but generally create a lot of chances and have about 20 attacking players from which Scott Lindsay can choose from, including basically their whole team from 2 years ago when they wowed us all on their way to League Two promotion. So that's a 6-fold. It pays, it would pay were it to win at 23.86-1 with Sky Bet. and it contains Hull and Swansea, Sheffield United, Ipswich in the Championship, Bolton, Leyton Orient in League One, and in League Two, we think it's going to rain goals as well as rain. Barrow, Crawley, Newport, Chesterfield, Salford, Bristol Rovers. Please recap your selections. Time for the pub, I think.
Wow. Bromley at home to Swindon at 21-20 is my nap. Wrexham draw no better 5-4 away at QPR, my next best. Goalscorer Isaac Fletcher at 11-4 anytime, and swerving Grimsby at 19-20 away from home against Cheltenham Town.
My nap is Wrexham at 21-10. Goalscorer corner has Ashley Fletcher 1.2-1. Blackpool home to Northampton. Zan Vipotnik, I've said that in like 4 different ways on this show, which has annoyed me. I can only imagine how much it's annoyed the listener. Sorry. 5-2 to score for Swansea at Hull, and also Bobby Camwer 5-1 anytime for Newport against Chesterfield. Half a point play there. The Eggman at 134-1 has Birmingham and Watford and Wrexham, and in League One, Plymouth and Mansfield. And our BTTS sixfold has, in the Championship, Hull Swansea, Sheffield United Ipswich. In League One, Bolton Leyton Orient. In League Two, Barrow Crawley, Newport Chesterfield, and Salford against Bristol Rovers. With thanks to you for listening, to Sky Bet for sponsoring the podcast, and to our friends the Reverters. Go well!